What's astonishing is how personal and petulant is the administration response. Reducing this to a kind of schoolyard brawl. So for the Israelis, this is whether the Jewish state will exist and whether another 6 million Jews will be wiped out. That's a very serious issue. I think the Prime Minister has a right to speak on it at a very critical moment in these negotiations.
That from nationally syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer on the dust-up over Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's upcoming visit to the United States. House Speaker John Boehner has invited the Israeli Prime Minister to address Congress. The big problem, though, he didn't ask the White House first. And now the president is saying he will not meet with the Prime Minister during that visit because of protocols. Joining us now to talk more about this and some other pressing policy issues, Senator Mike Lee, Republican senator from Utah and a member of the Armed Services Committee. Welcome, Senator. Great to have you here today.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
Lots to talk about, beginning with the high-stakes showdown between the White House and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is planning to address Congress over his serious concerns about Iran and urging lawmakers not to back down on efforts to pass legislation imposing tougher sanctions against Iran. The White House reportedly, though, fuming over this move behind the scenes, and there are reports in Israeli newspapers right now that the Obama White House is pressuring Mr. Netanyahu not to come, and if he does, there could be, quote, consequences. What's your reaction as this is happening to a key ally of ours?
Yeah, it's bizarre, it's surreal, and it's most unfortunate. Look, Israel is certainly our most important ally in the region, and it is one of our most important allies in the world. We need to be standing with Israel. We need to be doing everything we can to protect Israel against the many threats that it faces from every single direction. And so, look, the president has what I believe to be a deficient strategy, a failed strategy, legislatively and in his negotiation posture. The fact that there are members of Congress in both houses, in both political parties, who recognize this ought to be an indication to the president that he ought to reconsider what he's doing. And this is yet another manifestation of this. I think it's unfortunate, and I think it's an embarrassment to the world that we've got this world leader coming over. The president's worried about what this says about whether protocol was followed. We've got a president who's worried about what this is going to say about the wisdom of his approach, which is not working.
You know, the protocols that the White House is citing at the moment is that the White House says it does not meet with leaders who are about to be engaged in a re-election or election bid, and when he does arrive in March, it will be close to proximity of the Israeli election. So the White House says it must remain neutral, not to show that it's showing any kind of favoritism. What do you think about that response?
Well, look, that really is ultimately the president's choice. If he doesn't want to meet with a major world leader, the leader of a country that is our most important ally, certainly in the region, and one of our most important allies in the world, that's his choice. I just don't think it's a very good one. I think it's a really wrong choice that sends the wrong message to so many of our enemies in so many parts of the world that are trying to do everything they can to undermine Israel. I think that's wrong.
Israel has been warning this White House to take that Iranian terror threat very seriously and that any nuclear deal with Iran poses a mortal threat. The stakes remain quite high. How bad do you think is the fallout in this drama that continues to play out right now?
Well, I think it's very significant. The risks are very, very high because you've got Israel in a somewhat vulnerable position with Iran trying to develop nuclear weapons so that it can be paid more aggressively, even more aggressively than it has been, to try to undermine Israel. So I think this is very frightening, and we need to take this threat very, very seriously. We've got to do everything we can to diminish Iran's ability to develop a nuclear weapon. We fear what Iran would do with that nuclear weapon, with or without ever actually deploying it, with or without actually detonating it. They could do an incredible amount of damage just with the nuclear threat that they would present.
Well, some might say the Obama White House, in its bid to get a nuclear deal with Iran, is that all this is happening too fast and that legitimizing Iran as a safe bet ignores the reality of that country as a state sponsor of terrorism, destabilizing countries throughout that region. So why do you think the president is warning Congress to cease and desist with its efforts to impose further sanctions aimed at forcing Iran to give up its nuclear ambitions? Wouldn't those add additional sanctions? Wouldn't they add more weight to America's negotiating hand?
Yeah, so it has always been conventional wisdom that you don't put down your tools. You don't put away those things that would give you more negotiating power as you're going into a negotiation. So that begs the question why he would want to do anything other than strengthen his own ability to impose sanctions under U.S. law. And I think that would actually put us in a better position. It would help us protect Israel, and it would help further deter Iran from developing nuclear weapons. And so I can't for the life of me understand the strategy behind saying, no, let's put that off. Let's not do that. Let's not have any legislative effort to strengthen sanctions against Iran. Let's instead disarm as we go into a negotiation. And by the way, we're going to push for getting a deal, regardless of what that deal looks like. This is horrible negotiation strategy.
Well, let's switch gears a bit and talk about where you are right now. You're in Iowa, along with a host of other high-profile GOP leaders who are there to meet with Citizens United, and it's a very interesting gathering of folks. Tell us what you hope to accomplish as you meet and greet with the folks there in Iowa.
Well, you know, I look forward to the 2016 presidential election cycle. We've never had a better field, certainly not in recent memory, of potential presidential candidates. And I say at this point, the more the merrier. We need a robust, aggressive, roiling debate among Republicans, among conservatives, who are willing to explain why it is that they're conservative and what they would do differently if given the chance to serve in the White House. That's why I'm here, is I want to help contribute to that debate. I want to help make sure that it goes in the right direction, help make sure that we get the best possible presidential candidate for the 2016 cycle that we can possibly get. The stakes have never been higher.
It seems like you've got, as you mentioned, quite a host of interesting possibilities out there on the GOP side. A lot of folks are saying this is going to be one interesting race indeed.
It certainly is. And, you know, a lot of it starts right here in Iowa. This is the first primary that will occur, and it's a very important one. So this is, think of these as sort of the headwaters of the presidential election cycle for 2016. I'm pleased to be here and pleased to be speaking to this group of Iowans today.
All right, Senator, thank you very much for joining us today. All the best to you.
Thank you.